Hello everyone, Mr. Moron here, and every once in a while there's a video that comes along that is so retarded that I feel the need to respond to it. And today we're responding to Joshua Feuerstein, and for the people who don't know who this fat turd piece of shit is, basically he made a video where he disproves evolution, basically through just he doesn't disprove evolution, he's just being retarded. But lately he's done the same thing every time he does it louder and louder and stupider with less and less actual fact in it. And he already made a video on the Israel-Palestine thing, and there was already a good response to it on YouTube. So I'm not going to respond to that one, but I'm going to respond to this one that he just put out. And I was going to originally play through the video and pause it and respond to the points he makes in it, but I would want to save you the pain of having to listen to him shout into the camera and just be super aggressive. So I made a list of bullet points of the points he made. I'm going to go ahead and respond to them one by one. So at the very start of the video, he basically just says, "I don't do this for popularity. I do it for the truth." It's very clear he does it for popularity and the attention because ever since that video came out, every one time he makes a new one, it gets more and more popular, and he just shouts into the camera more, and makes him fucking more. He just knows the angrier he gets, the happier people are gonna be. Like, oh, this is gonna be a really unpopular video. A Christian praising Israel and America, huh? Yeah, that's gonna be really unpopular. Next, he talks about Obama being Muslim and that we trusted him, but he was Christian. First of all, no fucking Republican thought he was Christian. Every Republican before he was elected was calling him a Muslim and a terrorist. And, I'm the last person to defend the president, first of all, before I even continue with this video. I do not like foreign aid, and I do not like the president, okay? And yet I'm defending him because you're so fucking stupid. Um, but yeah, he is probably not a Muslim. Whether he's not a Christian, I have no idea. But again, you're just basing that on nothing. I mean, you're just basing that on your opinion. But I guess uh, that video was just meant to be your dumb, fat opinion. So thank you for telling us. So now let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. So he basically said, "Oh yeah, we give money to these countries that want to destroy Israel and America." And the four countries he mentions are Iran, Syria, Egypt, and Pakistan. So let's just go ahead and go through this list of countries that he's named. And first of all, he said that all these countries, all of them, have said that they want to wipe Israel and America off the map, which is completely false. The only country, okay, that said something like that was Iran, and the president Ahmadinejad said that he didn't say he wanted to wipe Israel off the map. That's what people interpret it as. But he actually said something like, "I don't want Israel to exist," which obviously doesn't excuse what he said. But first of all, he didn't say he wanted to wipe America off the map. He only said he didn't want Israel to exist. Like, that's it. That's the only thing he said. All those other three countries, you're just pulling that information out of your ass. Josh Fernstein's ass. That's what would be the citation there at the bottom of the paper, right? And despite that, Iran, they can say whatever they want. They can't do shit about Israel, and I will get to that later. But let's go ahead and see where the supposed aid. Yeah, we give billions of dollars to aid, according to this guy. So first of all, Iran received no aid from the U.S. The only aid that has been given by Obama, right, is a cutting down of sanctions. And the reason we gave that to Iran is so they cut down on their nuclear program. So what do you think we should do? Just continue with sanctions, continue to make them hate us, and have them, just, continue to block. I mean, they've lost $40 billion through our sanctions. You just want us to continue to do that, and then have them hate us more and more and continue the nuclear program? Or maybe you're just one of those people that thinks we should just fucking bomb Iran. Yeah, great idea. I'm not even going to bother to address why that's a retarded idea. But the fact that you think Iran receives billions of dollars of aid is ridiculous. They received relief from sanctions for a specific reason. The next country you mentioned was Syria, which receives. And first of all, this guy just assumes that all the governments of these countries are wrapped up in the Muslim Brotherhood and want to give aid to Hamas and hate Israel, which is bullshit. I mean, obviously they're all Muslims, but you're just assuming that the things people do in one country directly equates to that country supporting it. Like 9/11, okay, that's a few people in different countries, right? Who came together and they were terrorists and they went and bombed the World Trade Center. How does that make those governments in support of them? That's like if a serial killer killed, 20 Asian guys here in the U.S. and said, "Oh, I hate Asian people," then suddenly the U.S. hates Asian people and Japan shouts at us. You see how ridiculous that is? Okay. And Syria receives $290 million in humanitarian aid. Obama gave them that, yeah. Humanitarian aid. That has nothing to do with Israel. You understand why we give it. You want to cut off aid to starving people? You think that's a good idea? And I don't even support foreign aid for the most part. Humanitarian aid sometimes maybe, but for the most part I don't support foreign aid, and even this is ridiculous. You understand why we give them humanitarian aid, right? Egypt. Now, this is the only country on the entire list that receives military aid. Egypt receives military aid and humanitarian aid. So putting the humanitarian aid aside out of the $20 billion you mentioned, which I'm pretty sure isn't even the accurate figure. But first of all, I'd like to point out that every president has given aid to Egypt since Jimmy Carter. It's not like Obama suddenly is giving like bucketing money into Egypt. Like it's the opposite of that. Like I'm sure you love Ronald Reagan. Like all these Republicans have given aid to Egypt too, and that doesn't excuse them, obviously. Except I'm just pointing out because you are clearly a conservative nut job that that your party does the same shit. And I mean, Ronald Reagan gave secret weapons to directly to terrorist organizations, and I don't think you would be doing the same shit to him. And there's a reason Egypt receives aid. When Jimmy Carter made the deal, he made probably the only good thing he did was made a peace treaty between Israel and Egypt, and in return for that, in the deals of that peace treaty, he gave money to Egypt. And ever since then, we've been giving them money. I mean, we have a very delicate relationship with Egypt, and the reason that they don't go out and attack Israel and things like that is specifically because we keep them like close to us. And you think they're going to destroy Israel and come after us? That is a ridiculous proposition. We have our military is something like the figure was it is more than the next 14 countries with the biggest military. Okay, we're number one. Number 2 through 14, you combine all of those, they aren't even as big as our military. There's no way they could ever come and attack us. The Middle East, they are never going to attack us. Russia maybe could have a war with us. The Middle East, no chance. Not to mention they couldn't have a war with Israel, which I'll get to later. So there's the thing about Egypt. Then Pakistan, which only receives aid for humanitarian reasons, flood relief, educational purposes, and supplying food to people there. So there's no funding to the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, and I don't think you understand. Like, and then he's like, why don't we like? I think he just thinks that we don't give any aid to Israel. Like he's delusional. We give so much aid to Israel. We give something like $3.15 billion per year to Israel. If you took all the aid that we had given to Israel, I think the figure was like you could give each citizen in the United States $40,000. Like, you think we give them no aid? Like, this may be a reasonable video. If we give Israel no aid, we give Israel more money than all of these other countries. Egypt's like number 5 on our aid list. Israel is number 1. And Israel, they can use whatever the hell they want with their aid, and they get aid not just in that way, but in many other ways. Okay, I'm not going to go into them, but I really could if I wanted to. But there are many ways Israel gets aid from us. Okay, Israel like our little baby here, and if you think that's not a fact, look how much every politician ever sucks up to Israel. On the Republican stage, on the Democrat stage, every politician always says things, and yeah, actions speak louder than words. And Obama has given plenty of money to Israel. So stop complaining. It's ridiculous. You make yourself sound like an idiot when you say, "Oh yeah, Israel does all the stuff for us, like they get nothing in return." That's an absolutely retarded proposition. Okay. And the U.S. is going to be destroyed. I already explained how that's fucking stupid. And Israel, okay, can defend itself fine on its own. It has 75 to like 150. I think that's the estimated number of nuclear weapons. They've never publicly admitted it, but it's pretty much fact that they have that. All right, and they refuse to sign the peace treaty on nuclear weapons as laid out in the UN. Why don't you explain that to me? What if that was Iran who had that amount of weapons and refused to sign the peace treaty? What do you think everyone will be saying about that? And you're worried about Iran getting like one nuclear weapon? Like, look how many Israel has 75 at the very lowest estimate, like 75 times as many nuclear weapons as Iran could ever get, because even if they had one, which they're probably never going to get, but if they even got one, Israel will still have 75 times that. They're never going to win. Like, Israel is dominating the Israel versus Palestine fight. There is the amount of Israeli casualties compared to the amount of Palestinian casualties is a huge difference in Israel's favor. Okay, you're just so stupid. And finally, in your video, you say that there's a media bias towards Palestine, which is completely wrong. I mean, this country is you are delusional if you think that this country is biased towards Palestine. Like, I'm so tired of these Christians coming on here and thinking that they're the victims. You are not the victim, okay? You are the majority here. You have the presiding influence over our country in America. And the same thing for Israel. Why do you think every single politician ever is in favor of Israel? Why are all the mainstream politicians who run for office always in favor of Israel? And I'm sure you could find a few exceptions, but that is definitely the norm. And I'm telling you right now, and I can guarantee you, you can go do your research yourself. But media is heavily in favor of Palestine. It is I mean, in favor of Israel. It is not heavily in favor of Palestine. That is ridiculous. You also say that the videos of like and in segment you say, oh, you have a woman and children, and boo hoo, like, yeah, fuck the woman and children dying in Palestine, of course, yeah, screw them, we don't care. um and you say that you think the videos are fake. Like, are you stupid? Like, they don't play fake things on the news for the most part. And I mean, in an earlier video, you said people spend too much time like looking at what was it called, like worldwide hip hop or something like that, instead of the news. Well, look at the news, and you will see that we definitely have a bias in favor of Israel. I'm not there's not even a way to. I don't even know how to explain it to you. It's just common fucking sense. And finally, you complain about Hamas using human shield, like the human shield thing, which is obviously a shitty thing to do. But you gotta remember that Hamas is a terrorist organization. It has nothing to do with the governments of the money, the governments of the countries that we give aid to. Okay, and the reason Hamas exists in the first place is because of all this shit with Israel. If Israel hadn't, done all this shit to Palestine, Hamas would have come into existence. If we could have just, made a reasonable peace agreement, obviously both. I'm not even in favor of Palestine. Both the sides are fucking stupid. It's just a silly, silly argument that we should basically step in and say we're not giving aid to any of you guys until you work out, a reasonable peace deal that you can both agree to. I mean, it shouldn't be that hard. But no one's ever going to agree to a peace deal because they're both just retarded. Okay, but the reason that Hamas, you got to remember, that's the reason Hamas and all these terrorist organizations come into existence, just like 9/11. It's because Osama bin Laden specifically said in his videos, because we went onto his so-called holy land. If we could just make peace, I mean, you don't see any shit like this happening in Asia or something. You don't see us and like going into Asia and like imagine if we went to like China versus I think it's like Tibet or something, and we just imposed our will there. Okay, like we need to have peace. Okay, this is just ridiculous. You are ridiculous. You are retarded. I mean, leave your feedback in the comments. Tell me what you think. This guy's just an absolute moron. So thanks everyone for listening, and I will see you in the next video. Like, comment, subscribe, check out my channel, all that shit. And if anyone has anything to add, I would love to hear your opinion in the comments. And post this video to his Facebook page so we can see it. He's a fucking moron.